Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, I'm sick. I'm a little bit under the weather today, so if I sound kind of weird, sorry about that. But hey, this is the Win with Dice podcast, podcast all about tabletop RPGs, running them, playing in them. Kevin and I like to take a casual approach to GMing. So, we like to share our stories of our experiences behind the screens and our experiences playing other people's games. So, you feel like you're confident enough to jump behind the screen and try this hobby out for yourself. Yeah, that's the show.
Exactly. Of course, if you have any specific questions or comments or anything you want to make, just drop them down below. Hit us up on Twitter, and we'll try to get back to you and maybe put some of them in an episode. Something we can respond back to. So it's been a while since we talked about Pathfinder, but we're gonna have 2 Pathfinder episodes in a row. Last week we talked to Tim about the finale of his conversion of Lost Mine of Phandelver, or Lost Mine of Tim Delver, as we were calling it. And this week I have a few sessions of my Crown of Dragons campaign that I wanted to recap, including a combat that I kind of underestimated, or perhaps overestimated the players.
Yes, classic Calvin.
I wasn't
either killing your players or they're just beating the crap out of your stuff.
Yeah, it's really just back and forth.
It's like an arms race, man, Funny.
They did level up, so that's going to keep happening. But before we get into all of that, we have to get into the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week.
Yes, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week, brought to you by Ramon. So Matt Koval posted a video, so I guess I'm just going to steal whatever he did.
Friend of the show, Matt Koval.
Yeah, I know, friend of the show. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if he listened to our podcast, but anyway. He brought up how when the very first iterations of Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax, he was like, if if the game that the GM was running at the table was different from what he written, then he was like doing his job, right? It's like a lot of times back in those days you couldn't just Google something. You have to like literally call Gary and be like, yo, what's this rule? And the guy would just be like, yo, what do you think? Right? Because the whole point is that like Gary gave you the tools, but you have to craft your own story, right? So that's the kind of thing, that's the tip of the week, is like the idea from like the man himself. I mean, later as like, he's trying to run a company, he's like, well, you have to use official D&D stuff because, third party people are trying to take his market share, money, he has to make a profitable business, how it works. But the idea that, your table is like a singular experience that like feel free to throw out rules or add rules or whatever you want to do as a GM. Same thing like a player. It's like if you feel like you want to play a character and it's like maybe not optimal or something like that, just do it anyway. Build a character that you want to build, or talk to your GM and they can work it out, because every player, every like bit of like abilities or like lore or like, I don't know, anything that you could put on your sheet, it's only relevant to that table, and there's no like way to replicate that. You're never going to play with the same people. You're never going to have the same GM do the exact same things in the exact same timing as another table, even though you're playing the same adventure. So just like, I would like to let you guys know that you can just take rules out, put rules in, change stuff up, change abilities, like whatever. It's free. Just as long as you guys are all having fun, that's the key thing. Don't let some internet person being like, you're doing it wrong. There's no real way to play this game wrong unless people aren't having fun.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, even in different campaigns, people are going to have different goals. Like, you might want to see what's the best way to optimize my character, but you have to consider, well, what kind of game am I in that would I need these social skills? Do I need more combat skills? Do I need like specific combat skills?
Yeah, I would say like if you made the most optimized murder hobo, but there's no murder to be done, then what does that mean? Right?
Exactly.
Like it's like, okay, I have this dude who can hit people with swords really well, but okay, the GM's like, well, everything flies and shoots lightning bolts. What are you gonna do about that? Right? I think like really like anything can work, and it's in any kind of game, you can just have some fun. So as long as you guys are having fun, just toss rules out. I often just take rules from other games, smash it into my game, and take rules out. Like my whenever I run a game, it's like It's like basically a homebrew game anyway.
And it's still fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't get
so
so bogged down by the rules.
No one complains. I think it's because I just let my players be like, yeah, sure, you want a dinosaur? Here's a dinosaur. Like,
we can do whatever we want. All right.
Pretty much, I would say. I'd say most games, it's like, I think it's 50-50. It's like, if you want something crazy, I'm going to ask something crazy from you. Like, you know?
Yeah, except for me. I follow the rules all the time. I don't need anything wacky. I just need a cool dagger and a boat.
All right, folks. That's your weekly Woman Dice GM tip of the week. Yes.
All right, let's get into this. So, I've run about 3 sessions of this game since I last talked about it, including one yesterday that went very well. It was a lot of improv on my end, but so much good stuff came out of it that I was like, I'm really glad this happened. I felt like I was maybe in a bit of a rut for a bit, but yesterday as I was like doing that, that last minute session prep where you're scrambling to get something together and you're pretty sure it's never going to come up. And as I was making stats for a drug in the game, I was like, yeah, this feels right.
Stats? You didn't just like improv drugs?
Ramon, no.
Of course not. That wouldn't make any sense.
I need the numbers.
Yeah, true. Okay, all right.
So let's get into this in the Crown of Dragons. When we last left our players, while they are mainly on a quest to recover the different orbs of dragonkind, which can be fit into the Crown of Dragons, and used to control all the dragons in the realm, they've come across several distractions. One of those being that the witch player's patron has called them back to their hometown for a meeting with the rest of their coven.
I like that you said you call them several distractions. Like it's not like months of playtime. Like,
it also is. Also, like, it's not my fault. Yeah, no, so they got back to their hometown, where they ended up meeting the rest of this hag coven that was following the Night Matriarch, Mother Nocturnum, who is the source of this character's power, as well as the power for this coven. And she had some big important news to say, which is that, hey, this person over here, they're looking for the Crown of Dragons. That's pretty powerful. They can use that to spread fear and despair throughout the realm, and every time people in the material plane are afraid and have nightmares, she gets more powerful, and then eventually she'll be able to come to the material plane herself. So our session ended with just us in the dream realm. When we started back off, we were still there. And I was kind of figuring out like a couple of things they could maybe do there. I did have a shop set up with a very interesting character. I'm sure they would have liked this guy. But they had actually decided that they should probably just get going because the rest of the hags went off to find someone who they would bring back from here, bring them into material plane, and just spread a little bit of chaos in that small town nearby, the one that our player was from. So before they headed off, they did have a conversation with one of the hags, one that's been a little more, not as hardcore as the others, it seems. It seems she's not very happy with the positions that she's in, but she's kind of like resigned herself to it. So she was trying to give the witch player character some advice, and gave them a little bit of help, because how they got there was through the help of the Winter Hag and a spell she cast with her staff that was totally rules accurate. I think I know the rules for this, I might have forgotten them. It's weird when I'm flexible with them, because there's some things where it's like, no, I need to do this precisely, and then there's some things where it's like, this is probably fine, and I have yet to figure out if there's a consistent rule for it. As of yet.
Honestly, I think the idea of teleporting into the dream world should not have like hard set rules.
Yeah.
like I was like, what do you mean? Like, just do it. Like no one's gonna ask me like show me the spell components, dog. Like what?
I think it might just be like if it's like a wacky magic thing, then I'll be flexible about it. But if it's something that might be semi-realistic, like the effects of a drug or travel time, then I'll want to figure it out. But if it's magic, I might just be like, it's magic.
Oh man, yeah. There was a meme I saw on the internet where it was like, a guy's like, how does it was a dude just walking and a dude chasing him with like a garbage bin, and it was like, the guy was like, so wait, how does this work? And then the guy who's the bucket's the GM, and it's like he throws the bucket over it, and the bucket's just magic.
Yeah, it's just magic.
It's just magic, whatever, man.
That's all you need to know. So yeah, this hag was able to cut off a part of the Winter Hag staff, and the players could use it with a high skill check, which required some assistance to find their way back home. So they were able to do that. They did have some conversations about what was going on, not wanting to let the hags attack this town, obviously. So when they got back to the material plane, the way it functioned is that there were just certain weak spots between the material plane and other places, and there's a whole thing for that in the lore that I don't need to get into, but they were able to get back home, and they basically set up an ambush. There was some debate and some regret over not going to the Dream Plane market, but it's totally fine because I can fill it up with more silly stuff. But essentially what they did was they got back, the place that they teleported from, it was near some ruins. So they just kind of set up in these ruins and waited for the hags to show up. And then when they did, they rolled some stealth. Unfortunately, this party of 4 plus a companion animal got 2 nat 1s on that stealth check.
Oh, that's like a Tim special right there. Something bad's gonna happen to these folks.
Very much was. So instead of being able to hide within the tower ruins nearby, they kind of like knocked over a brick and it created like this cascading domino effect that alerted the hags of their location.
Just took the entire tower down instead. They're just standing out in the open being like,
whoops. So I had some vague ideas of what might happen in this session. I really thought they were going to fight the hags, but I thought that was going to happen in the Dream Plane itself, or maybe something would happen in the town, because they said they were going to attack the town. I don't know why I didn't realize, oh wait, they'll just wait at the portal and get them there. That's the much more obvious solution. So in the background, I was kind of scrambling to put a map together, because it also had to include this being that the hags were bringing with them from the Dream Plane. This enigmatic figure wrapped in robes by the name of Lezi Kazent, a name that I totally made up and did not come from a generator.
yeah, okay.
So essentially, this combat was like completely unprepared for. I had a bunch of hags that were all different levels. I had this guy that was a different level. There was no structure to it, but I was like, let's see what'll happen.
True. Just a bunch of big blasting magic people and a party full of adventurers. That sounds kind of fun.
Exactly.
Sounds like a lot of saving throws.
There were indeed. So combat starts. That guy, he stuck around for like a round or two, but then he was like, this isn't what I was hired for. I'm gonna go burn this town down. But there were fireballs and combat and fighting, especially so the map that I had, it was like a river running through a field. There was like a bridge going over it, so of course there's spots where you can like jump over, fly over, depending on what spells you have available to you. That one hag was just trying to put the other player character to sleep and then just go kill their friends, because she was like, look, you're stuck in this now. It's gonna suck more for you if you have friends around. I will do you this favor and get rid of them. I just need you to go to sleep for a bit. Unfortunately, that player had a pretty good will save, so didn't really work out. Also, I think sleep didn't work in combat, which I wasn't aware of.
I mean, you could just call it like hag sleep. Like, I don't know, man.
It wasn't until I think at some point they did fail to save, and then we realized that the spell as written was like they're actually asleep, so a noise will wake them up, and they were in the middle of a field of combat. So I was like, that's fair.
True.
But yeah, hags were tossing around lightning and stuff. There was one, so again, one of the hags is based off of the Lady Dimitrescu character from Resident Evil, which is a thing I get tired of explaining. I don't know why I keep saying it, because everyone gets it. But she was able to do a really cool athletic leap over the river, as she was trying to get to the specific witch character, although she got stuck fighting the fighter. The Winter Hag was flying around. So yeah, at that point, Leslie Calzant, he just dipped, he left. The Bard was doing some support, some inspiration. The fighter, so I was hoping, because the hags, one of them does have like an ability to cage people. I was hoping that would be more effective, but he burst out of it pretty easily. And then he was sort of like in single combat with the Honest Hag. It was a decent battle still, although he was able to take her down, and he was able to move on to the Winter Hag afterwards. At that point, there was a Storm Hag left that just sort of used the river to escape. And then that one that was left that was trying to, just put the witch character to sleep, she was like, oh, you guys are actually pretty useful. Which may come back later as she snuck off into the forest.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't have time to deal with her because the party started chasing after this figure from the dream plane. Heading all the way back to town, they could see this attack was already underway as he had summoned 2 different creatures from the nightmare plane. And then we get into, so there were several things going on with this next session. One of them being that Foundry wasn't working. Well, it wasn't Foundry's fault, but no one could connect. So what I ended up having to do was like stream one of my screens through Discord so people could see it.
Oh, okay.
Which was a bit clunky to deal with, because I would be like, oh yeah, just roll a save. Oh wait, I have to roll that for you. So that was kind of a pain, so my notes aren't as great here, because I was running like all of the characters instead of just half.
Yeah.
Another thing was, so this party is pretty good at handling most combat challenges I throw in front of them. Like, especially for the last however many sessions or so, dozen plus maybe. There have been moments where I've been trying to like see what limits I can push with the combat, like with the Kyvanth boss battle, and with the boss battle at the end of the tomb that they were in before. Like, they were sort of on the higher end of what the book recommends you put in front of your players. So for this thing, I was like, okay, let's just crank it up to 11. And then I put some creatures in there. I put 2 creatures in there that were higher level than the players. And the guy from the Dream Realm himself was about the same level as the players, or same CR compared to their level.
Right.
But in my head, I was like, they'll be fine. They can totally.
But they just had a combat. That's like 2 combats back to back.
Yes.
Calvin, you jabroni. That's basically like 1 combat.
Yes. Entirely right. That is something I did not learn until. Oh wait, they're low on spells, aren't they? But I was like, no, they're fine. They're already here. They have whatever they've got left. These guys just need to fail a few saves and they'll be okay. Which isn't exactly what happened, noticeably.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually a pretty rough battle. They were also fighting 2 animate dreams, which are pretty deadly in their own right, but they also have a unique affliction, their Endless Nightmare Affliction, which can cause fatigue, stupefaction, or just falling asleep. And unlike most afflictions, there's no maximum time for it, so even into the next session, they were still rolling saves for that crap.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, because, I mean, it doesn't have a maximum time, so I was like, okay, I guess this is forever. But essentially what they were dealing with is as these things hit, they can cause an effect that causes fatigue and stupefaction. They are pretty strong as well. They're immune to several things, resistant to pretty much everything except some specific kinds of damage. So it was sort of a kind of a rough fight, even with the Dream Realm guy kind of just like hanging out on a roof looking down menacingly. And he can also like heal whenever he's not in the Dream Realm, so they did get some damage on him, but by the time the fight ended, he had healed it up himself without even like moving. Mm-hmm. I did bring in an NPC who was more of a distraction than anything. His attacks weren't very effective. The dice were not on the player's side, I will say. So, the fighter, Edgar, who is, you know how fighters are. Fighters, barbarians, all the melee guys who do that big old damage. He went down a couple of times. the bard Randy, he mostly stayed back. He was the only one who got through this without having to be subject to the endless nightmare effect. But he did end up going down. The other players, the witch Talia and a druid Valzana and her pet Steven, spelt in the worst way possible, they just kind of escaped. They basically, like, at some point the players were like, yeah, we should just basically run. And if it weren't for the way certain turns ended up being, all of them might have gotten out. But 2 people were unconscious after leaving the dream realm and kind of killing the hag coven of the night matriarch. So there might have been some stuff going on there.
Okay.
I did that thing because we were playing in Discord, so I did that thing where I just had the unconscious players join me in a different chat room, and something happened, and then we went back, and that was the end of that session. Then we get into session 34 of this campaign.
There is still no Draco or Corona.
You are absolutely right. They are.
I'm so upset with this damn show. All right.
They are as close as they've ever been. Well, second closest. They did get one technically. Like, as we were talking about the game, I was like, you guys did technically find one of these things in the very first game. You just didn't know that's what it was at the time.
Oh my god. I'd be so mad.
But so yeah, this was one of the ones where it was like, because I feel like my prep work was falling a bit behind lately. So here I was like, okay, I need to actually get into it. So I did prepare stuff, but I left room for improv. That's why I was like, yeah, now I feel right. I'm not just like flying by the seat of my pants here. By prep work, I mean I like wrote out a proper recap as well.
Yeah.
But we started off with Valzana and Talia just sort of escaping into the forest. They planned to get back into town and see what was going on, and once they heard that there was no longer any fighting going on, and that's when they ran into Myrtle, this hag who wanted to break away from the coven. She was warning them that she wanted to go check on the other hags and make sure they were like actually permanently dead, because she suspected that they could be brought back to life, but she didn't know exactly how it could be done. She also gave Talia a specific blend of drugs that I had sort of custom made. It's a mix of like the refined Pesh and Flayleaf in Pathfinder 2 that narratively is supposed to help hide Myrtle's true intentions from the Night Matriarch, because she can go into your dreams and your mind and whatnot. So she got a few doses of that. And it's pretty simple. It's really just like a combination of the two things. Like, you have a bonus to your saves against mental effects, but you get some like other conditions as well. So they were able to get a sample of that, and so they headed back into town. And then I went with the unconscious players, who were sort of recovering within the office of like this apothecary druid that they met when they first came into town, as well as several other townspeople who were also like, they had the nightmare effects going on because of these creatures that attacked the town. One of them, Randy, he previously ran into this kid who wanted to be a bard. And the kid was there, and Randy was pretending to sleep to avoid being noticed by him. This kid, additionally, is actually the brother of the witch Talia. Unfortunately, no one in this town remembers her due to the Night Matriarch's influence once Talia fell under her sway. So yeah, they got up. Avon, the druid who runs this place, just updated them about what happened and what went on. They got some potions as some rewards, as well as a scroll that I don't believe they've identified yet, but I think is going to be really interesting for one of them when they figure out what it is. I'm not going to spoil it here. So yeah, they got all that stuff back. Also, that kid Darian. So before the game, I asked Talia's player how much Talia would know about Darian's like affinity for music and stuff, if it's something he would hide from his family, because he comes from a wealthy family and they want him to run the family business and all that sort of thing. So they're like, no, you can't be a bard, you gotta run the family business. You know, that typical story.
Yeah.
So yeah, Darian gave Randy this silver brooch that he said like he got it as a gift some time ago, but he doesn't remember where he got it from. And Randy promised to give him some music lessons in exchange. But yeah, I think it was kind of hinted that that was something from Talia in his past.
Oh, okay.
And that was a thing that they like had a conversation about briefly, because Randy said like, "Oh, that Pipsqueak gave this to me," when Talia saw it, and then Talia was very insistent that Randy honor his promise with regards to those music lessons, which maybe he will. I don't know.
So Talia remembers everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Talia remembers like all her family and stuff, but it's like once the night matriarch was her patron, when she went back home, no one recalled who she was. So afterward,
Such a heavy chapter, man.
It really is. It's honestly because so many backstories ended up in the same place, and then we just did like a trail of backstories getting to this one. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there'll be some way to rectify all of that. They did meet up with Myrtle, where they originally had to fight with the hags. They were pretty worried about having another combat that day, and I was like, I'm not that mean. The world might be, but I'm not.
Let's see what this table says.
But no, they were able to get there. They did find that the hags were taken, and they were able to make enough checks that they could see they were going southwards to a nearby town on the coast. But it was sort of, because basically where they are right now, if they go south, there'll be this town on the coast where it seemed like the storm hag, that direction she was going in. But if they go like southwest, they'll be at where one of the stones is, one of the orbs of Dragonkind. So they basically planned to follow the hags instead, and I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know where this distraction came from, but I guess we're following it. Unfortunately, the next day, so again, the Endless Nightmare effect, so most afflictions, they'll have like a maximum time of some sort. This one did not. So essentially, it was just going to be you keep rolling until you save from it. I guess it's going to be forever if it has to be. So most people were at stage 2 of it, which is just they are fatigued and stupefied for one day. Bit of a pain, but it's just one day. The next day, I had them roll the save again, because the condition lasts for a day. Valzana and Talia, they moved on to stage 1, so they were just fatigued this day. Unfortunately, Edgar, he failed this save, surprisingly, and he went on to stage 3. Stage 3 of the affliction being that the victim falls asleep and can't be awakened for a day.
What? Oh my god, Calvin. You're like, yeah, they'll be fine.
Look, I thought they'd be fine. It's just 2 of them.
Oh my god.
So, basically the next day comes along, and Edgar, their powerful fighter, he's asleep and they can't wake him up at all.
There's like no other way to get rid of this thing.
So that's the interesting thing,
man.
is it's like they were trying to find a way to do it. Like, rules is written, there isn't a way to wake them up. But I was like, if you guys can give me a convincing argument for something, I'll give it a go. Because like I want to see what you come up with. There was some discussion of trying to shock them awake using either their shocker lizard or the electric arc spell, which
That was literally what I was thinking about doing. I was like, just shock him with the shocker lizard until he wakes up.
I was all for that. I would have gone for it. Randy's player Edgar's player wasn't too interested in it though. Too interested in being shocked. He had the HP for it. He would have been fine.
Yeah, he's a big thick boy. He can take it.
But in the end, they decided just to wait a day. They stuck around helping out in town, helping out that druid. And then the next day they left, and I got to use my random travel table again. Which is essentially they just came across what looked like some abandoned farmland. They found some useful rations in there. Not very tasty, but they were able to roll good enough checks that they didn't get anything that would sicken them. And then they camped out. And I got to throw another monster at them, because as they were camping, this strange plant-like creature that was more like a mass of like rotting vegetables and vines sort of crept up on them in the middle of the night. And the person on watch, the bard Randy, unfortunately rolled just one too low to see it, because it has an ability that can like stealth in forests and plant life.
Yeah, because it just looks like crap on the ground, right?
Essentially, yeah. So this creature is a shambler, which it can do. Which one of the things it can do is it can make multiple melee attacks without penalty. Like it will apply the penalty afterwards. So if I do another attack, it'll be like -10. But I can make a bunch of attacks without a penalty, and I was pretty happy about that.
Oh, this bard's gonna get walloped.
He did. He got hit. He got grabbed. And then the other players got up, and they all rolled very good for damage. This thing does have a decent amount of HP, but there was one particular blow from a spell that did like 40 damage, and then there was a couple other things, and this thing had like 120 HP, so it can take some blows. Even at that level, it can take some blows, but it can't take like a bunch of big ones all at once in one round.
Yeah.
So, of course, the fighter kills it, because that's what fighters do. Managing to cut through the vines and free the bard. Yeah, I just wanted to give them a bit of a chance to maybe do some new stuff with their new level that they got to. The druid was trying to find loot, and I was like, it's a plant creature. It doesn't carry... doesn't carry stuff on it, but she was like arms deep in the rotted plants, so I was like, okay, yeah, there's a half-digested money pouch, and it has 10 copper in it. Go wild. You're in the money now.
We did it, folks.
Okay.
10 cents.
Time to party. And then we get to the last day of this part of the session. Where, again, they all have to roll saves versus the Endless Nightmare effect. Valzana managed to shake it off, the druid. Talia the witch. Edgar, the fighter, got down to stage 1. Talia the witch, though, she is stuck asleep. And that's going to be really interesting.
Oh, no.
Because she is now asleep for the day. And I guess they're not going to try to shock her awake.
Didn't you guys just go to church or something to get that removed? It's like,
Nope.
Talk to some good deity.
I mean, they could try.
Help.
Whatever they want to try.
Please.
Like, again, it's like, as written, it's like they can't be awakened. But if you come up with a cool idea, we'll go through it. If that's what they want to do, sure. Why not? So they traveled on. They ran into some kids who were fishing. Looked like they had a couple of fish already. At first, the party... Well, not the party, I guess, but Valzana was trying to get their fish, but Edgar was like, why do we need it? But then they were trying to get some information. And of course, so I was trying to give the kid a quick voice, and I ended up being like, what's that information worth to you, lady? Like that, it was better yesterday, but it was like that Joyzy Boston voice. I don't know American accents, but it's that one.
Yeah.
Just that
classic Joey Wheeler.
Yeah, the Joey Wheeler voice. There, sure. Let's call it that. The Brooklyn voice.
Rage.
So Valzana just drops like 2 gold on this kid. And, like, the economy in Pathfinder 2 is such that gold is, like, extremely precious. So if you give a kid 2 gold, then you'll be like, oh, yeah, sure, lady, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. They got some information about the hags passing by, including the one they're supposedly working with. And then the kid tried to swindle for more gold, saying that the 2 fish they caught was worth a whole gold, which it obviously wasn't.
That's funny.
And then, yeah, Valzana ruffled the kid's hair, and then he just, like, protested and shoved her away as he combed it back, which kind of set the tone for the town of Luly, which was not intentional, but ended up being like Fantasy Brooklyn, I guess.
Everyone's Joey Wheeler.
Yep. I don't know why that was the only voice I could do at that point. So yeah, the town of Luly actually has a bit of history with me, because way back when, I started like a choose your own adventure thing on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen it, because I haven't posted about it for a while. But it was just like a thing where I would post like a page of a book with some story in it, And then I would put like a poll where people could vote for what they want to happen next, and then you do that, and then like I write that out and put it up, and then make another poll, and the poll was up for like a few days or so. It was fun, but I just didn't really keep up with it regularly because it was very because I have the memory of a goldfish. So but yeah, that was the place I set it was a town called Linley. So when I was making up my world map, I just kind of put it in there as an Easter egg for myself, I guess.
Because no one would know.
Because no one would know. But I don't know. I needed a coastal place, and I had that, so I was like, sure, why not? But yeah, it's mainly like ships and fishing and, you know, transport and stuff like that. You can they could definitely like smell a lot of like fish being cooked as they came into town. And they ended up at, because every inn has to be a alliteration or pun, they ended up at the Sparkling Salmon Inn.
Ah, right.
Where they were able to get like rooms and board and stuff like that. You know, adventurer stuff. Yeah. They weren't able to find Myrtle, though, who they were looking for. So the elf running the place told them to go check out the a different inn, a cheaper one, known as the Riverbeds Tavern.
Okay.
While also being a pun, it was a bit cheaper because it's downwind of like the fish market area.
So it just spelled bad.
Yeah, pretty much. So they head down there and they meet the, I guess one of the standout characters from that session, at least for me. They met a character by the name of Kadu, this female dwarf. So when they ran into Myrtle previously, they could get like the familiar smoky smell of the pipe that she was smoking. They could kind of follow that scent to Kadu, who was sort of like sitting in this corner booth by herself. And this seems to be the source of where Myrtle gets the ingredients for what she mixes together to keep the night matriarch out of her head. So Kadu was like, yeah, I saw that lady, but what do you want in return for the information? You know, because they all talk like that there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, well, she had to get something in return for the information, right?
Yeah.
So this is where she was going to ask the player characters for a favor. Some of this was seat of my pants. Some of this was, well, what's this person want? How are they going to get it? Essentially, it was that she has something on a boat she needs to get. Something that she wants transported in, but she needs to be able to do it subtly and without getting noticed by the paladins. Actually, when the player showed up, she was like, are you a paladin? Because you got to tell me if you're a paladin.
What is up with this gangs of people?
I don't know. I do not know. But yeah, she had a box of it was the new hot drug, demon dust.
Demon dust. Damn, alright.
It's quite illegal because it is made of the literal bones of demons.
That is crazy.
I don't know why anyone would choose to do anything with that, but sure.
Demon dust, man. That's what kids are doing these days.
It's what they're into. You need it for parties. So yeah, she had a box of demon dust on a boat. She wanted the players to get on the boat and get it off. She had a note that could get them onto the boat, but getting off with the box would be up to them. Valzana was all the way into it. And I was like, yeah, let's do this. But Edgar, the moral compass of the group, wasn't into it. Talia was asleep for the day, so Randy was kind of the deciding vote. And Randy, of course, like, he knows about drugs, but he's not into demon dust. Because he's not foolish. So between all of them, they did manage a group intimidation with the threat of authorities to get Kadu to admit that she saw Myrtle heading out of town towards a nearby lake. The lake itself having some sort of infection that prevented fishing there, but nothing specific that she knew about. And we kind of ended with the party heading off towards that lake, but Kadu did give Valzane a free sample of the refined pesh, this drug in Pathfinder. And who knows, maybe Valzane will be into it and want more. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, that's where we finished off with them heading out of Fantasy Brooklyn, which it wasn't supposed to be that. It really wasn't, but that kind of colored like everything else that was going on there. and I was like, let's make this more of a street level thing. We've done some pretty high fantasy stuff. We've been in like the dream plane for a couple of sessions. Let's bring it back down a bit with some fantasy drugs.
Fantasy drugs and, Brooklyn, Jersey accents or whatever, like.
Yeah, no offense to people from those places. I mean, honestly, the accent I did was probably so terrible it was like not real. It's a fictional accent through a fictional place. But yeah, like a lot of that part was sort of improvised. Like there's just like people I have around there, and there's things that are like they might want this thing, they might want that thing. So what can I do that'll put a different challenge in front of the players? It's something that we haven't done recently. So I was like, maybe something sneaky, something stealthy. They did choose to go a different route, so I was like, okay, well, there is this location where Myrtle has gone. There's a different challenge waiting there, so we can head off there and do that. I'm just trying to mix things up a bit, do different kinds of stuff in the game.
Yeah, but still no Draco or Coronum, so I don't know, man.
Look, this will be the last thing.
I'm starting to wonder about the title of your campaign and what it all means.
I swear this is the last one. I mean, they're very close. They're almost at, so they know the vague area. They know it might be within Kelna's Keep, this mysterious location they haven't been to yet, but there's a lot of stuff going on there that I'm excited to get to. There's also, I promised them a Willy Wonka dungeon, so I gotta deliver on that Willy Wonka dungeon.
That's what happens when you tell your players that I could do that, and then you have to deliver, and you're like, damn it. Now I gotta go watch Willy Wonka and be like, what's that river made out of chocolate? Okay. Like,
yeah, what can I do with that?
Yeah, what can I do with that? It's just regular D&D, but everything's chocolate. That's what it's gonna be.
Basically,
you enter this chocolate room where there's chocolate chairs and a chocolate tapestry.
I mean, not far off. I was kind of thinking like, because something I did, I think it was for Fate Seer, our game, was I modified an enemy to make them made of gold. So I kind of used some, oh my gosh, I don't remember what it was. I think it was like some of the material properties of like either gold or like gold items, and then applied it to this creature. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know, can I do that with like candy or something and apply it to another creature? Like maybe it's a bit brittle, but it's sticky or something.
Yeah, it could be sticky. I mean, you could just have like a gelatinous cube, but it's just like a gummy monster, and it's just like walking around. There's like stuff floating in it or whatever, and it's just like
Just like chocolate bars and lollipops and stuff floating in it.
Yeah. Or you could have like just like oh, it's an axe swinging from a ceiling, but actually it's just like a really big lollipop. Just like,
it's still very sharp.
It's still very sharp, right? Like, you could have like candy swords where it's like, well, if they get wet, then they don't do that much damage because they melt. Yeah, stuff just melt. That's like a good thing. Or like, depending on what it is, it's like if it gets hot, then it just takes more damage because, like it's like a marshmallow monster, and then he's like, that kind of stuff.
It's a
that kind of
giant
stuff
s'more.
would be kind of fun. Yeah, it's a giant sword now. You fool.
I mean,
with my graham cracker armor and chocolate face, you shall never defeat me. Just like shit like that. I think people get a blast out of it.
Yeah, for sure. It's got to be something silly and fun, and I'm running out of time because according to the calendar, it's about 10 days, I think, from when that happens. I am, of course, still using the fantasy calendar from the Danzon site. I'm also using their fantasy weather generator. So I got to give them a forecast every day.
You get a lot of mileage out of that site, man.
You really do. It's where it's actually where like a lot of names and inspiration and stuff comes from, because it's like for certain things like with cities and towns and stuff, it'll give you like a list of like things that can be in there. And then I can take that and apply those templates elsewhere, so I have those things to fall back on. So it's like, hey, they just got to this town, they need a place to stay, or they need a tavern, or there might be docks here, or there might be some unique, interesting building here. And I have a name for it. At least for the most part. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. I don't know. I really had a lot of fun with yesterday's session. The last couple I felt like I wasn't like prepared enough for, and I'm pretty good at improv. They were still fun, but yesterday I definitely felt like more like my old self. Like I felt more like I was making up a thing that probably isn't going to get used, but I'm happy I made it up.
You have that safety net of like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like if anything else, I've written this name down and I could say it a bunch.
That's exactly why I write stuff down.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think I have much else to say about the game. Although I do kind of want to talk about like combat scenarios maybe for a bit, and like especially trying to make difficult ones. Because again, with the one previously, like I feel like if they were at full power, they probably could have handled it, especially considering that the spells and stuff they were able to use on the plant creature later.
Yeah.
I just went into it thinking, and I'm sure at some point I was like, yeah, but they just came off the hag fight, but they'll probably be fine. Because I had sort of settled into the groove of thinking this party can handle basically anything, without considering that was at full power.
Yeah. Well, like that's the thing with parties, right? It's always just like draining resources from them. So that's always like when you get to the final boss fight room, like one, it's like the thing you're probably going to fight, it's like a culmination of everything you experienced, right? But two, you're probably low on spells, so it's like either you have to rest up beforehand or like whatever. But when you have like strings of combats together, like it could like really affect your party, especially when they're not rolling too hot, right?
Yeah.
And like the thing is too is like when you choose to like up the difficulty of something, it's like if you like going with, especially in Pathfinder 2, if you're going with something with a higher CR that has a bunch of save or get this effect, the actual percentage of their success is lower, right? Because the DC is higher. So it's like they're more likely to fail, and then that means you're more likely to have like a death spiral happen.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a spiral.
And you put two of them, so like they're saving throws for the same things probably like twice, right? In like a round. And like how long was the fight? Like 3-4 rounds, maybe.
It was definitely more than that. I don't have it.
So if you say like 5 rounds, but let's say it's 5 rounds, right? So that they're like a player might be rolling that same save 10 times, like they're gonna fail, and then if they fail once, they're gonna probably fail it even worse next time, right? So that's the only thing. I mean, those monsters are kind of cool, but it's like if you're gonna do that, you have to like think about like, you know, who you're targeting with them. Like obviously target the people with the high will saves when it's like, oh, this fight's too easy, let me go target the people with the low will saves or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's tough to have those kind of creatures kind of balanced. It's way easier to deal with like dude with big axe hit real hard than like dude who's like, you're gonna go to sleep now and don't participate anymore.
Yeah, just get out of here. I mean, yeah, definitely. Especially like trying to compensate for rolling in combat balance is like physically impossible. I feel like Pathfinder is pretty good at the recommendations for balance and stuff, but I mean, random chance is a random chance. Like,
I think it was harder, but I don't think it was impossible. It's just that, like, you know, there's just a higher chance of everyone dying.
Oh yeah,
like anything, right?
Like again, like I feel like if they came at this fight not right after the hag fight, which was kind of all over the place in terms of level, I think they would have had more success. Like for sure, I think they would have at least taken down one of them because they were doing like okay-ish damage. Just not as much damage as they normally do, because I was looking at these things and I was like, the players can put out enough damage to deal with these guys. I'm not super worried. And then I was like, oh, I should have been super worried.
Well, it depends of your players too, right? Like, you know, first-hand experience of playing Solrona, right, the wizard, it's like my thinking is always like I need to stockpile a bunch of big blasty spells, so when like the chips are down, I can still whip out something, even though, like, you know, we've been going for a while without a rest, right?
Right.
So like maybe your players just need more of those burnable resources that are like they can supplement when like they're in a long combat scenario, essentially, right?
Yeah, maybe. And that might just be like partially maybe I can maybe make those resources more obvious or more available when it comes to like what shops they have nearby as well, and just maybe give an indication that like, hey, there's some scrolls over here.
Yeah. I mean, you can even let an NPC just kind of say it, right? Like, they walk into the shop being like, "Are you prepared?"
Be prepared.
Right. So yeah, because that's always the thing. It's like, it's for a Magic user, it's always running out of resources. It's like tough because then it's like you're just kind of left with like cantrips and like your attacks aren't that good. So it's like that's always the uphill battle versus like playing a melee fighter who could just constantly spam attack monster in face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. With the only time limit is like your HP bar. Right.
Yeah, and like even the fighter had to like fight that NSA before, so yeah, no, it's definitely like a matter of like knowing the players, knowing what they have available to them. Kind of not rest. I mean, like when I was looking at the calculator, it was definitely like at the maximum of what would have been the difficulty. But again, like I was just like, they got this. They're good. They're the best. They're indestructible, basically.
They're indestructible. I murdered all of them.
Oops. Not only half. I will only feel bad if I kill the druid at this point. Because she's the only one left of the original party as we started from session 1.
Hey fam, I think it's fine because now all of the new characters are more heavily invested in the Draco Coronum story. So like even if the druid dies, it's just kind of like, well, the Draco Coronum is such a big deal that there's just bodies. There's so many bodies in the way of collecting this thing, right? So that's just how it is. That's how it is sometimes.
She's also the only one whose backstory we haven't really like delved into yet, but her backstory is like on the other side of the continent.
Well, you should just put some Coronum over there. They could go there, Calvin.
I did. I think my map scale is like ridiculous also.
It is kind of big, man. It's like an actual country.
Like each square is like a day of travel. And
so many days.
I don't know. Part of me is thinking of reducing it, but then it's like, I don't want to. The whole thing, the whole scale of that entire map is because of some random point in time. I was like, okay, this travel will take X number of days. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's this number of squares. So moving at that pace, that means each square is this distance and this whole map is this size. And I just like on the fly said this thing, and now my map has been this scale for years.
Well, all you have to do is just implement like different ways of travel, right? Like, give your players a boat, and all of a sudden continents are open, right? Like
fast travel button.
Yeah, you could give them a boat, give them an airship. Teleporting with magic would be kind of cool. I mean, you guys just went into the dream realm, so like maybe you can go back there and fast travel because dreams are weird. Right?
Yeah, true. I can definitely borrow that from Starfinder.
Yeah, all sorts of nonsense could get your players from point A to point B like faster. You guys in the pirate campaign are gonna go to the witch market, but the witch market's kind of like a dimensional hub. Mm-hmm. So it's like you can enter the witch market at any place and exit the witch market in any other place that has like an opening to it, right? So like it's like this crazy crossroads where like you can literally halfway cross my world if you wanted to by just passing through the witch market. So like there's just like you could have nonsense like that.
Yeah. I mean, there is teleportation, but yeah, maybe I should actually work on like a public teleportation network.
Yeah, it could be like a new startup to like, and it'll just like it's like the carts and stuff are for like the peasants, and like this is like for the real megalomaniacs.
Transport for the ultra wealthy.
Yeah, for the ultra wealthy, or like just like maybe some crazy wizard or something. You could even just be like you could make it to be like an old relic of like, you know, that lich, right? Because the liches are magic people. They're wizards that, you know, have ultimate power.
True.
Right. So you could be like, maybe like some of his old strongholds or something. Like if you beat the crap out of whoever's there and take it over, like maybe you can just teleport to another spot, something like that. Open up kind of gateways that way. So they have like another way of like, you could add it to like your random generator to be like, oh, all of a sudden you find this weird black tower, and it's like, yeah, you can teleport from this black tower to like any other black tower if you clear it out or whatever. That might be something. So it gives like players that it's not like they can choose to engage with it if they want to, and it could open up different avenues. Like if they find one tower, they have to go find another tower, but as soon as they find the second tower, then it's like, oh, you can just connect it. So, you know, it might say like, okay, I can get from one tower to halfway where we need to go and then travel the rest by cart or something.
Yeah, that I had something similar I was messing with, but it was like fairy circles that I just literally stole from RuneScape.
True.
But I think that might work a bit better because it fits more to the lore.
I mean, fairy circles are also cool because then you could have them, you know, have to barter with fairies who, like, I would argue, you know, like, how do you know, barter with something who doesn't want like money or anything,
that
right?
would be fun, actually, especially because of all the casting of the final sacrifice spell after summoning a sprite.
Yes. Oh my god, that would be the best. And then it's like they're like blacklisted and they have to like
Don't I know you from somewhere?
go to they have to take them to fairy court and just then you have to get one of them to say objection. You're like, Ace Attorney.
I have a mighty need for that fairy court encounter.
I'm saying, man, I think it's time.
Yeah, we got time. We're really close to his dragon orb. We got time for one more thing.
Yeah, you know, and there could be a little rat lawyer just, you know, working his way up through the courts.
The crossover
with like
we
a
didn't know
southern
we
accent. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. There are a lot of things I want to fill in with this world, especially like every time they go to like a coastal area. I'm always worried they're gonna ask, "Hey, where are those boats from?" Because I have not figured out like other continents on this planet, which I also don't think I've named.
I don't think you need other continents. Like tons of boats just travel the coastline to other ports, right? Like
that's fair.
It's a lot easier to transport like lots of things at once by sea versus like on land. So like you can just have them going across the coast. I mean, like technically, like all of the maritime stuff that's happening like in Greece was just off the coast, right? There wasn't really a lot going for it, right? So they could always just like a lot of maritime travel was just coastal for like the longest time until, you know, people were like, oh shit, we should just travel straight across this bitch. And it's like, oh, here's America. Like,
that's fair. I guess they could just be doing that. I don't know. I'm always nervous because I'm always like, if someone just asks that simple question of where are you from, then I thought,
you're like, oh no, crumbling.
Then I gotta
well, maybe
like,
you should just make a list of all your coastal cities and then just, you know, just roll a die and then you're like, cool, this is where the boat's from. Generator.
Boat from generator. Maybe. I gotta finish doing the town emblems first.
Oh my god. Alright, let me know when your campaign setting's gonna be published now.
Probably never. It's just going to expand and expand forever. I can't publish it because I'll keep like republishing it.
True.
But yeah, that's what's going on in my homebrew game world right now. I'm glad I have this space where I can ramble about my game for an hour.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you can appreciate my critiquing of how there's very little Draco or Corona in your game. Which I'm like,
I think we'll get there in a session or two. I don't know. I say I don't know if something else is going to come up as if it's not 100% within my control.
Promises, Calvin. That's all I get.
Okay, I don't know if something else is going to come up, but we're pretty close. The thing is, like, I know what's in the place where it is. Just don't know if anything else is gonna happen before we get there. They got that cool drug fence to hang out with now. Maybe they'll follow that thread.
I was like half expecting that like Helen was gonna show up. When you're like, we're back at a coastal town. Helen's there. The boat they're gonna stick on was just the mermaid's dagger again.
Hey, they didn't go to the docks.
That would have been hilarious. Oh man, just Helen just being like, oh shit, it's you guys again.
They haven't gone to the docks. That's all I'm gonna say.
Damn it.
But yeah, that's I don't think I have anything else to say. I don't know, Ramon, do you have anything else you want to ask me about this game that has been incredibly fun for the past few years, and we have not collected a single dragon? No, they did get one. Okay, they got one.
Listen, all I know is that I think that's, I'm excited for them when they finally get like a Draco or a Coronum. Because I don't know what it does. And I want to deeply know what it does, so then I can steal it. Like, that's what I want to know. What your ideas of it is, but I don't want you to tell me. I want to find out.
Yeah, I made a table ages ago with all the orbs and stuff.
And I hope they are excited to be like, finally. What the hell why are we trying so hard to find these things? All of our friends are dead. Like, this better be worth it, right? Like,
totally will be.
God damn it. God damn it, man.
Well, if you guys want to see what happens when we finally collect one of these orbs, just be sure to hit that subscribe button so I can eventually, at some point in the future, describe what these things are and what they do.
This crazy epic saga, man. And there's 5 of them. What the hell? God damn it.
Yeah, man. I'm just looking at my Drake Coronum notes on the orbs themselves. I wrote them in like 2019. We haven't got them yet.
It's gonna be like 2030. They're gonna be like, yes. Finally, we have one Coronum.
Oh man. No, maybe I'll start picking up the pace, but probably not.
Probably not, let's be real. Your players don't even want to pick up the pace either. They're like, yeah, I'll just play D&D forever. Yeah, it's good.
I hope so, because that's what's gonna happen. But yeah, thanks a ton for listening to me talk about this game. I love talking about this game because I love hanging out with my players so much, and I'm really glad they're enjoying it. So if you want to hear more stuff like that, or more Pathfinder stuff, more Lancer stuff, more Mutants and Mastermind stuff, more Starfinder stuff, just hit that subscribe button, because that's what we got coming for you in the coming weeks on this channel. Of course, check out our previous podcast episodes. We talked to a whole bunch of people in the last few weeks, so we took a bit of a break this week because scheduling things is a lot of work.
Definitely.
But we definitely want to keep, I think we want to keep doing that. It's fun to talk to people about their ideas and stuff. Might just space them out a bit more. But do be sure to go down to the links below to check out all the stuff. We have all sorts of links to all the people we've talked to, so definitely go check those out. And of course, I have to give a shout out to the Untold Stories Project, where I'm at every Monday in their space superhero game, because they started a new series, the Guardians of Haven, where you can see me trying out another accent. I swear it's better than my Fantasy Brooklyn, but not by much.
I think you should just always be Fantasy Brooklyn. I think that's a good call.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, maybe my character in that game will change to Fantasy Brooklyn. But yeah, if you want to see me almost get eaten by an acid creature that burrows under the ground, go watch Mass Effect and then go watch this game. Speaking of which, just started playing Mass Effect 2 on the channel. So we got more of our gaming streams going on, made a semblance of progress in Skyrim, which seems like an impossibility, but it definitely happened. And we've also got Outer Worlds going on, which we might get to DLC in that soon. Just want to wrap up some more main game stuff before that. So yeah, lots of stuff going on the channel. Be sure to check all of that out, and of course all of our other videos where we make characters in Lancer and Mutants and Masterminds and all that. And I think that's all we have to say for this episode. A bit of a shorter one because we had a lot of longer ones lately. So this is our chill episode. And then I don't know, maybe we'll do some bigger stuff next week.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, folks. Alvin, do the outro.
All right. Well, everybody out there listening, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.